Companies are laying off workers because of what AI might do, not what it's actually doing yet. And a new Harvard Business Review study says the quiet part out loud. Meanwhile, the founder tool ecosystem is exploding. LangChain is on a hiring tier, and the Reskilling system meant to catch displaced workers is fundamentally broken. From a team at the Synthetic Daily, it's Thursday, April 30th, 2026. Good to have you with us.
We went through about 12 posts, articles, and threads across LinkedIn, Substack, and YouTube over the past week to dive deeper into the world of AI and the workforce.
Here's the number that caught my eye this morning. 55,000 jobs in 2025 were directly attributed to AI, according to Challenger, Gray, and Christmas. That's out of 1.17 million total layoffs, the highest since the pandemic. But here's where it gets weird. A Harvard Business Review study published in January, based on a survey of over 1,000 global executives, found that these cuts are happening almost entirely in anticipation of AI's capabilities, not because AI has actually proven it can do those jobs better.
Think about that for a second. IBM cut roughly 8,000 people from its HR department and replaced them with an internal chatbot called AskHR. Microsoft let go of 6,500 employees across legal, engineering, and product management, and Satya Nadella pointed to GitHub Copilot writing 30% of new code as justification. Salesforce /4,000 customer support roles, with Mark Benioff saying AI now handles half the company's work. These are real people losing real jobs. But the Harvard research suggests the driving logic isn't AI proved it could do this. It's we believe AI will be able to do this soon, so let's restructure now.
CNBC has called this phenomenon AI washing, using the automation narrative as a convenient cover for what are really corrections to pandemic-era overhiring. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Companies overhired, they need to cut, and AI gives them a forward-looking story that Wall Street loves. But the consequence for the people on the other end of that pink slip is identical either way. Now, shifting gears a bit. If you're wondering where the pain is actually showing up in the data, not the corporate press releases, but the labor statistics, the Dallas Federal Reserve published a fascinating analysis earlier this year. They found a clear decline in employment share for workers aged 20 to 24 in occupations with high AI exposure since ChatGPT launched. But here's the nuance. It's not that young people are getting fired. It's that they're not getting hired in the first place.
That's a great point. The channel is reduced labor force entry, not increased layoffs. Companies aren't posting those junior analyst roles, those entry-level content positions, those first-run customer service jobs the way they used to. Goldman Sachs economists put a number on the broader drag. Roughly 16,000 fewer monthly payroll jobs, and 0.1 of a percentage point on the unemployment rate. That sounds small until you remember it's concentrated among people just starting their careers.
Ruben Hassid made waves on LinkedIn this past week with a post arguing that your 9-to-5 is now riskier than entrepreneurship. He cited the World Economic Forum's prediction that 83 million jobs will vanish in 2 years. His framing is provocative. You're one layoff, one bad performance review, one restructure away from losing everything. But the Dallas Fed data actually supports the underlying anxiety, especially for younger workers. The safe path isn't as safe as it used to be. The question is whether the alternative path, building something on the side, as Hassid suggests, is realistic for someone who can't even get their foot in the door of the traditional economy. So here's the other thing. So, if jobs are disappearing, or at least transforming, the obvious answer is reskilling, right? Train people for the new roles. The World Economic Forum says 170 million new positions will be created by 2030, with a net gain of 78 million jobs after displacement. That sounds hopeful, until you read the fine print.
You know what stood out to me? 63% of employers say the skills gap is their single biggest barrier to transformation. 59 out of every 100 workers need reskilling or upskilling by 2030, and 11 of those 59 are unlikely to receive it. That's over 120 million people at medium-term risk of redundancy globally. A study out of SSRN found that 77% of new AI-related jobs require a master's degree. We're creating jobs, sure. Prompt engineers, AI ethics officers, human AI collaboration specialists, but we're creating them at a credential level most displaced workers can't reach without years of additional education.
Brookings published a devastating piece identifying what they call the reskilling treadmill. Workers retrain from one automation-susceptible job into another because nobody can reliably predict which roles AI will transform next. And here in the U.S., we spend about 0.1% of GDP on active labor market policy, second to last among OECD countries. The National Academies found that 47% of workers now use AI tools monthly, up from 34% the year before. People are adapting on their own, but the institutional scaffolding that's supposed to catch them, it's barely there. While the macro picture is sobering, something interesting is happening at the individual level. A post from Chorig Malmum racked up 570 engagements this week by mapping what she calls the exact AI stack to go from idea to execution. Lovable for MVP landing pages. Cursor for full-stack coding with AI copilots. Zapier for automation. ChatGPT for brainstorming. Claude for custom business workflows. Searchable for SEO strategy. It reads like a recipe card for building a company without a team.
So is that a promise or a warning? Probably both. Because when you stack that against Neokim's catalog of 20 AI repos, Allama for running local LLMs, N8N for visual workflow automation, Diffie for production-ready AI apps, AutoGPT for autonomous agent chains, you start to see an ecosystem that's genuinely lowering the barrier to solo execution. These aren't theoretical. People are shipping products with these tools today.
Daniel Jindu made a related point in a YouTube video this week that cut through the hype nicely. His argument: most people fail with AI agents not because the tools are bad, but because they give vague instructions. His analogy is perfect. If you hired a human assistant and said, "Help me with my business," they'd be useless on day 1, too. The bottleneck, as he puts it, isn't the model or the tool. It's the human's ability to scope the task, provide context, define the workflow. Garbage in, garbage out. The one-person startup stack is real, but it still requires one very capable person at the center of it. Moving on, Julia Schottenstein, writing from inside LangChain, argued that early career people should stop looking for mentorship and start looking for talent density. Her point: your peers will push you harder than any mentor, and in 5 years, those peers will be running things.
It's a recruiting pitch, obviously, but it's also a signal about where the AI infrastructure layer is headed. LangChain isn't a startup experimenting anymore. They're building the orchestration layer that connects language models to real applications, and they're hiring across the board. When a company at that layer of the stack says they need people in every function, it tells you the demand for AI plumbing is outstripping supply.
This is the flip side of the layoff story. Yes, IBM is cutting HR staff. Yes, Microsoft is trimming product managers. But companies building the tools that enable those cuts, they can't hire fast enough. The job market isn't shrinking uniformly. It's bifurcating. If you're in the business of making AI work in production, of connecting models to databases and APIs and business logic, there's more demand than ever. If your job was to be the human middleware that AI can now replace, that's where the pain concentrates. Harrison Chase's LangChain team is hiring. Salesforce's support team is not. That's the economy in 2 data points. All right, let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture. What are the main themes running through everything we covered today? The first big theme is anticipatory restructuring. The corporate world is making permanent staffing decisions based on speculative AI timelines, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where the labor market reshapes before the technology fully matures.
Next, the entry-level collapse. AI's most measurable labor market impact isn't mass layoffs but the quiet disappearance of starter roles, which threatens to break the career ladder at its first rung.
Next, institutional reskilling failure. The gap between the speed of AI-driven job transformation and the funding, design, and foresight of public reskilling programs is widening into a structural crisis rather than narrowing.
Next, solo operator viability. The convergence of AI coding assistance, workflow automation, and local model tooling has crossed a threshold where a single technically skilled person can realistically ship and scale products that once required small teams.
And the last one, infrastructure layer hiring boom. Companies building AI orchestration and developer tooling are experiencing talent shortages that mirror the very displacement they're enabling downstream.
So if you're going to take away a few things from today's episode, here's what I'd remember.
Number one, if you're early in your career, the biggest threat from AI isn't losing your job. It's never getting the job that would have trained you for the next one.
Number two, the companies cutting headcount and the companies hiring aggressively are often in the same ecosystem. One builds the tools, the other loses roles to them.
Number three, reskilling only works if someone can tell you what to reskill for. And right now, nobody reliably can, making adaptability itself the only durable skill.
And finally, the solo founder stack is technically real, but the bottleneck has shifted from can I build this to can I think clearly enough to direct the machines that build it.
That's the Synthetic Daily for today. All the sources and links are on the website if you want to dig deeper.
Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.
Everybody dancing together.